let's start and let's see then what we can do with the mural. So I'm going to start. Welcome everyone to our second BP distribution working group session. Today, what we're going to do is to continue with the discussions that started 2 weeks ago, I believe. Yeah, 2 weeks ago. And we're going to touch base on the different initiatives, the different ideas, and the different concerns that that the community has raised last time. But we're starting first with one of the main topics that we discussed last time about the possibility, again, and this is something that we already discussed a couple of times, of implementing a reputation system to combine with the current stake weighted approach. So for that, what we're going to do, I will share my screen, is to work with the concept of badges. Again, badges are something that we already have. We have a couple of them that are already minted and users have them. But if we want to build a reputation system on top of that, we need to recognize different contributions and assign badges to different community members. After that, we will be able to gatekeep or give access to different community members that hold different badges to different governance processes. If again, this is the approach that we're going to adopt. But as this was one of the most discussed things last time, we thought it was a good idea to bring this discussion again. And yeah, well, you already have access to the mural. So the idea here, well, I'm going to actually pass it to eBay that's going to explain the dynamic here.
Yeah, Faye, you are right on track. In case anyone's joining and is not seeing the mural, it's the one at the right of the previous one. So there are just one next to the other. So that's the one we discussed last time, and this is the one for today's session. And like Faye said, we are going to discuss badges. And in the columns, we have our actual badges. Like Faye said, the ones that are already minted. Probably you guys already know those, but in case you don't, for the governance process, we have top voter and legislator. Then for platform, we have landowner. For creators, we currently have Metaverse Studios. And then for core units slash committees, we have, well, core units, committees, and boards. And then we have our desired badges, which is ones that were previously discussed and were just gather of community input. Um, Successfully passing a grant, being a contributor of GitHub, a DAO event attendee, or active user in the platform, having passed Kanye request. And then for creators, we have wearables, quests, scenes, and community events. And those are the badges that were um, input by the community. So basically, the dynamic for this mural, which is going to remain open just for everyone to, you know, comment and chip in, is just to interact with the cards, upvote them. If you have any comment in particular, if you have strong feelings about a particular badge, whether if we have to implement it or if we don't have to implement it, please drop the comment so we can leverage that, and hopefully we have a narrowed list of the badges we're going to implement in the governance process. We've discussed this a couple of times, but we just want to get that super narrowed list and the final say, you know?
Okay, great. We're already having some addings to this board. One of them is working group facilitator. I was actually going to add that one, so nice. But yeah, as we did last time, I'm going to put some music and give time for everyone to complete this, to add or to comment on the badges that we already identified as something desirable or possible, and then we're going to review them one by one if the time allows us. And right after that, what we're going to do is go through the different existing proposals and approaches that we had, uh, that are already live, right? That we already have some pre-proposal polls, draft proposals, and some approaches like the uh, quadratic delegation system that could be solutioning for the current BP distribution system, as well as, for example, the recently passed proposal for revamping the delegate system. So, yeah, I'm going to put some music and I give you some time to complete the board. And remember that this is still going to be open for everyone for a couple of more days. So let me know if you hear the music.
Yes.
Great. Okay, we're having really good ideas. I actually have some comments for them and some ideas to potentiate them. Okay, we can start discussing some of them. You can still complete uh, or create more cards if you want to, but we already have some stuff to discuss. You agree, Bay? You want to leave more time? Or
No, I think we're good to go.
okay, great, great. Where do you want to start?
Maybe we can start with the ones that haven't been discussed before, or for example, working group facilitator, just the first one.
Okay. Well, that's a pr- pretty straightforward one. I know if Lola you want to join the stage and like talk more about this, but it's not like a big deal to be honest. The thing with the working group facilitator is that it's going to be manually allocated. It's not something that could be automatically done on chain, uh, and the budgets won't be minted like automatically. But yeah, I mean, there should be a defined criteria for what means to be. I'm going to invite you. Sorry. In the meanwhile, yeah, there should be a defined criteria, right? Because right now, for creating a working group, what you can do is to create a pre-proposal poll or promote a draft proposal, and if it passes, you can ask the creation of a working group. The author obviously can select the facilitators or self-appoint himself or herself as the working group facilitator. What we should do is to define a criteria of when that badge could be assigned and like the definition of an active working group, right? Because if someone creates a working group, becomes a facilitator, and that working group has no engagement, no meetings, no summaries, no surveys or anything, that badge should be removed or never allocated to that person. So I think could be a good badge, could be a because it's a concrete contribution to the governance system, but we should define the limits to that. I pass it to you, Lolly.
Yeah, completely aligned with you, Freddy. I'm a big fan of working group concept. So yeah, definitely we need to define criteria such as like numbers of survey conducted, like numbers of summaries, numbers of meetings, like proof of human and activity, and define like some kind of successful activity because like the outcome should be like um, proposal, yeah, and like if it's passed or not. So yeah, let's work on this, but it's a good start to think about it and to start working out these guidelines and criteria.
Yeah, it could be metrics or could be this thing, right? Like being active or inactive or the outcomes, or like I know, but I believe it's a good batch to add to what we have right now. But again, we have to discuss because this is not going to be automated, uh, and yeah, has to be like needs some accountability from the community and from the rest of the squads. I don't know, Gino, if you want to add something about this.
Yeah, I'm sorry for being the Grinch here, but from my point of view, we need to stop thinking about like the output of things, like number of, and start thinking about the outcomes of the work that we do. And the problem with um, the problem with the outcomes is that the definition of a successful outcome is usually not so easily defined in an unbiased rule. So doing, especially for budgets that might have some relation with voting power or things like that, we end up centralizing the decision making because someone will have to do that, right? Someone will have to make that decision. So that's why I think that if we want to have a seamless and efficient governance mechanism, we need to try to uh, use the resources that we have uh, in an automated way as much as possible, right? So even with things that might end up being social reputation, the definition of that or the source of that reputation should be a little bit less objective, subjective, let's say, and more objective. So I like having a badge for a working group facilitator. That's fine. It's great, but I wouldn't attach those kind of things to voting power or to governance rights. Um, at least that's my point of view. And also, it is difficult because who's going to be responsible if that person is not in the DAO anymore? How that will change? So we need to make sure that the mechanisms that we have for governance can pass the test of time, right? So that's also important.
Partially agree with that. I do think we need to recognize like these not like these contributions that are not automated or not on chain, and I do think that we might need a bit of centralization for this. Could be again if these, for example, will need a governance proposal or something for deciding not only the criteria but also the group of people that could vouch or could assign these badges. I do not agree 100% that we should avoid that because like a lot of the roles and a lot of the contributions that are in the governance are not like tangible, and being part of the governance and helping with the governance process, it's like adding a lot of value. I saw, for example, here another one that says uh, highlighted priority. Oh, sorry, this is rewards. Sorry, um, but one thing that we could do, for example, and talking about, I'm maybe talking about something that we're going to discuss further in a few minutes. But for example, the delegates. If we want to like professionalize delegates, if we want them to contribute in a more professional way, and if we want to ask them to conduct more professionalized assessments for proposals, uh, and we could incentivize them, that will probably need a program manager for that. That will probably need like the human factor, someone like taking care of that and supervising that and saying, hey, this is not a contribution or this is a contribution or whatever. Not talking about the budgets right now, but as I see it, I personally do not think that we should go for the full automated things. I do think we should like be very clear about the criteria and be very clear about who or the group of people that will vouch those badges. That's my take on that. And regarding like the successful or not thing, that's like, yeah, I do agree with that 100%. For example, we have here the successfully passing a grant. That's not like something that should be recognized only because the grant has passed. Maybe we could add some more layers to that to assure that that grantee has finalized the grant, that has not missed the updates, that has not have any revocation in his track record. I know there should be maybe more uh, things to take into account for that, but I do agree that talking about successful things, most about grants, obviously, is not the way. Uh, that's my take on that. Anyone else that wants to jump in and discuss about this? Sorry, yeah, Gino, go.
No, I mean, I'm not saying that we don't need like people to execute on things. Of course, we need people, and as we always said, decentralization and automation are spectrums, right? It's not like a boolean yes or no. So I agree. I mean, my concern is what is about the like the impact of a badge given in this way. in this like subjective way. So that's my concern. Again, I believe that recognizing community members for taking the time of facilitating a working group or wherever, it's totally fine. What would be the actual impact of that?
That's clear. Yeah, maybe if we're talking about like gatekeeping other layers of the governance and allowing people with this badge to vote on those or participate on those uh, governance processes, yeah, we will be relaying on someone that will be vouching or allocating that badge to someone that's going to have maybe big take, a big stake, and like a more influence on the decision making. And that's why I guess you're saying that, right? It's because not that about recognizing, but the potential impact on the governance. If we want to, what we want to do is a reputation system, right? And based on that, to enhance the decision making.
Okay, amazing. Maybe we can move to other cards. The ones for platform, I don't think there's no one new. We already have GitHub, can DAO event attendee. I see a comment there that wasn't there before, so or it's an upvote. Not sure. Oh, it's a comment.
It says testing Tuesday participants, town hall attendees, town hall speakers. Okay. Yeah, that those I don't think those personally, right? This is my take. Maybe not badges, maybe co-ops or something like that. But we could definitely do something with once we have the inward headquarters. This will be definitely potentiated because the interactions with the governance system within the DAO headquarters and the activities there will be more traceable. But for now, testing Tuesdays and participating in town halls, I know if that's something that well maybe yes. Participating on certain amount of town halls or whatever could be a way of working this. For GitHub contributions, we should define which kind of GitHub contributions, for what repositories, and everything, right? Because we have obviously the repository for the Decentraland platform. We have also the repository for the governance. So we should define uh, which contributions and the scope of that contributions and everything. It's it will be maybe easy to track, but not easy to define those kind of contributions. With Canny requests, I like this one because I saw there was one pre-proposal poll to incentivize this. I will say that we could allocate badges for people that create requests, and if those requests are actually prioritized and implemented by the foundation, that could be a way of recognizing them. Like saying, "Hey, okay, like I know maybe Canny request is not the name for the badge, obviously. Maybe it's platform contributor or whatever. We should find a name for it. But I don't think it's going to be uh, that like complicated. I'm reading some comments there. One from Janko. Canny requests should only be for the ones that actually get enacted also. Or why is it exactly? That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you maybe there could be like a flooding or spamming of Canny requests, and that's not the idea. If those are actually feasible and the foundation prioritizes them and they got implemented and that's not difficult to track, maybe we can find a way to recognize them, and a badge could be a good way to do it. And I don't think that could jeopardize the like the governance system. If this will allow someone to participate on different instances of the governance system, I don't think this is more objective, right? That the things with the working group. So I think this could be a good one for implementing. I know what's your opinion on that, Gino?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could make sense in terms of yeah of engagement and value added. We, I don't know. I think we need to define again who's gonna do that. Um, but I see that the foundation team is currently paying attention to that as well. So yeah, it could be good.
Yeah, they're actually tagging the request saying this is prioritized, this has been implemented. So that's it's objective. At the end of the day, we will have like the final output or the response, the formal response from foundation. So this is something that we can figure out. I think this is a good one. It's not that complicated and it's more objective. It's like something that will happen or not. Okay.
Okay.
Active users already we already discussed one or two or three times about this. This is like easily like uh bypassable, like easy to gamify with bots or like maybe people just leaving their computers on with the avatar in a scene. So yeah, if you say active user in platform, and if we want to like to okay say this is an active user in the platform, we should totally like find a workaround for that, because right now if we're talking about time in world or other specific metrics, that's like very easy to gamify. So I know if this was a one that was already here in the board, or if someone added this. But that's my take. I don't know if anyone else wants to add something to that. We should be what I'm saying is that we should be careful about in world and the things that are measured in world and the metrics to allocate budgets or something that recognizes uh, people, because a lot of them are easy to bypass. Uh,
No, Faye, that one was already on the board. That was
okay,
on the one discussed. And yeah, that one was linked. I mean, as long as we don't have any proof of personhood or bot penalization system, I think that one is going to be tricky.
yeah, agree, 100%.
So,
One comment from Nacho. I think that more than active user following the time in world is not useful. Agree, as you said, but maybe around mission quests, we should take into account great players who made important milestones in the game. That's a really good one. Yeah, if we work with it, okay, well, we have here quests, for example, for creators, but if there are quests in world of any kind, or if we have milestones there or whatever, actually the headquarters are going to have some kind of gamification for participating in the governance. That's something that we could totally recognize, and that's something good to take into account. So maybe that's the workaround. And yeah, again, we need to wait for the headquarters to be there, but those ones also might be not good for in like using for the governance, right? Just in terms of recognition and not in terms of, okay, this guy that has been in world doing this quest will have access to these discussions or will be able to vote on this proposal or whatever. It's something that should be a badge. I like that badge to be something, to become something one day, but not in terms of uh, enabling or like allowing someone to have access to other governance layers. Again, that's my take. Other comments from Django. Agreed that active user can be easily gamified and cheated. Yeah, maybe a workaround for active users can be getting certain number of other badges collected. Okay, that's a good one too. That's a really good approach. Some badges, and that's something that we should note. Some badges should be like a requirement for accessing to other badges, right? Like I know that someone has put something about tiers. Uh, we could go and discuss that after this, but yeah, some badges definitely should like unlock the possibility of accessing to other badges. And that's a good way like to eliminate or at least to mitigate this gamifying and cheating for this. I really like that approach. Okay, pass it to you again, Iway.
Okay, moving to our creators one. The first four ones, can you zoom in? Those were already added. And the new ones we have are streamers, ecosystem actor, which is bit project owner, and active grantee. Um, so yeah, I saw in the general channel that rewarding creators is right on the tables. So I would love someone to share their thoughts on any particular of this.
I want to talk about like the wearables creator one, and I know that Nick is here. I think that we should definitely recognize wearable creators and with their collections being published in the marketplace. What we should define is to say how many, or I don't know, we should define how many collections or what wearables or what pieces should be part of this recognition, right? Because I've been talking with our community members a few days ago, and they say, okay, if I want that badge, I will just publish a wearable, a collection that's like it will cost me this amount of money, and I will have access to that badge. So that's easily gamifiable too, and easy to cheat. What we should define is if we want to allocate badges to wearable creators, and I think we should, and I think they do. I mean, it's desirable having them um, having more power or more influence on the decision making or in specific things. For example, I don't know, maybe wearable created where people with badges for wearable creators will be able to vote on the smart contracts and updating the smart contracts referring to the marketplace or whatever else or whatever. And that should make sense. I mean, it makes sense to me. But what we should do is to define, okay, we're going to allocate batches for wearable creators. What's the criteria for that? Not only publishing a collection, because that's easily gamifiable, but what we could do with that.
Hey guys, so I just kind of want to break into here and start talking about like the tiers for badges. I think that's probably how we solve that, right? Because if you just have a single badge for it, for saying like this person is a wearable creator, you could have somebody who is running their own game, who's come out with like, 10, 20 of their own wearables, they've sold well, and then somebody else who's coming out and just like, they've just released one wearable. And if you just have a single tier badge, I think you're going to run into an issue where somebody has a lot more rep, they've done a lot more for the community, but they're not really going to be recognized for them. And I also think that maybe breaking the badges down to sort of like an echelon system or a tier up through achievement system could be really strong as well. So like say you've got 3 different layers of badges, right? And you've got achievements locked to those badges, and if you get a certain number of these achievements, then you get an upgrade to your tier. So that could be like selling a certain amount of wearables, publishing a certain amount of wearables, or having a certain amount of wearables resold on community. And then you can also tie that into different worlds features for how many active users you have in there. So once again, we have issues with bots. We all know this, right? But as soon as you start tying in these activities and these achievement systems and the badges, maybe even allocate values to them, then you can rate a person's account and say like, this is a real person because they have published so many wearables, because they have worlds that have activities, they've completed so many quests throughout all of the scenes in Decentraland that we can see that, oh, they've got a score of like, 100 or whatever, which means they're an active participant. Versus like if they are just a bot account.
I think that's great. I really like that when you added this one, because right now what we have are the badges and like a limited number of badges, but like creating more layers and different tiers or and that stuff will definitely help to avoid this becoming something easy to cheat or easy to bypass. And we're going to avoid basically to create incentives for people just trying to publish stuff or do stuff because of the badge. So having
Yeah.
tiers will definitely help to mitigate that.
It gives us far more filters as well. So like we can filter people out easily to see like whether or not they are actively in the community and whether or not to include them in our our data surrounding people, our analytics, sorry, as well. So like it filters out bots.
The good news, this is something that we have planned for this semester from the Gordon Squad, like the idea of levels or tiers of badges. So it's gonna be available for us to use.
Nice.
Didn't know about that, Gina. You should have spoiled me.
Spoiler alert.
Great news, great news. So this is really feasible. This is actually feasible. That's great.
Yeah, the only thing that we have to solve, I mean, we had this idea of this idea of composable NFTs that you can combine two NFTs and get a new one. Like we started thinking if we could do something with that. But if that's not possible, it will just mint a new NFT every time you get to a certain tier. But we had this idea of like upgrading the NFT.
Nice, nice. Love it, love it. Thanks a lot, Crypto Trader, for bringing this. Thanks a lot, Gino, for announcing this. This is great.
Sorry, regarding Shanko's question about retroactively or from certain moment of time to the future, with with some of the, well, I would say with all of the badges that we released, with like a retroactive calculation, like for example, well, of course, holding it's easy because it's always at that time. But with legislator badge and well, I think only the legislator badge had the retroactive calculation, and then from that moment into the future, we will mint the badge in real time basis. So if it's something that it's trackable on the blockchain, or if we have a way to check a log or history or something like that, yeah, it would be retroactive.
Thanks a lot. I'm reading the comments to see if there's something else there. Okay. I'll pass it to eBay again so we can continue with the different cards here.
Okay, we have quests, scene, event organizer, streamer. Do you guys think those like should get special attention, or maybe talking about them as creators as a whole and having the tier system go about creators, although each of them, will have their own specifics. But I think that there's enough consensus to reward creators as a whole. Unless someone has a specific comment regarding quest or scene in particular, you know. What I'm sort of curious about, maybe Nikki or Crypto Trader or you know, any creator can chip in. Is you guys have any strong feelings between having rewards for publishing or actually selling? Like, do you guys consider that would be a barrier somehow, or because I think they're two pretty different KPIs, you know? But
Um, so are you talking about like rewards for a good scene, or sorry, I just
yeah, like for the wearables, like going a bit back to wearables, um, you know, I guess it's
Mhm.
not the same of having a reward for publishing that for actually selling it. And that could also apply, I mean, to scenes or quests or having, you know, that success yeah, between vertical.
Oh, like a success metric, like how
Right,
many
yeah.
you've sold or how many active players. Yeah, that
Mhm.
could be good. I think that's probably the success metric, like the results at this point, when you get to the point of releasing scenes, is probably worth far more than the effort. So if you've got one good selling wearable versus somebody who's got 10 wearables that never sold, I think that person who created the one wearable that sold well should be more recognized than the person who's created 10.
Mhm. Right, seeing Nick as well saying it's crucial that both get rewarded. Yeah, yeah. Then again, the tiers solve it.
Okay, I think we can jump into the rewards thing. And again, if we're talking about a reputation system and incentives, and this being part of the core governance, and like obviously the escalation of our current governance, uh, we should thinking think it not only in terms of okay allocating BP, but also as I mentioned at the beginning of this meeting and as we discussed last time, as a way for batch holders, for specific batch holders to access different instances of the decision making. So at certain point, somewhat with I know, let's say 10 badges, or I know a badge for I don't know tier 5 being one of the most important wearable creators or whatever could have more influence and decision power in these different instances of the governance. So again, when we're talking about rewards and incentives, we will have, for example, here voting power, mana. I can see here that here we have, for example, non-tradable BP, and that could be like be worked around with the DAO treasury, delegating BP, or creating governance token. I know. I think that that's going to take a lot of work, but maybe we could figure out something with the treasury for delegating BP. That could be temporary. So again, let's split this discussion in two. First one will be obviously about allocating voting power to certain kind of budgets or multipliers to BP. That's something that Gino has proposed in the past. Uh, but also about the different uh, instances of governance and the access that badge holders could have or not to those instances. But yeah, I mean, here we have another reward, for example. If you have a specific badge, let's say you are a legislator or a working group facilitator or you're a contributor in any other way, maybe a highlight in the governance platform for that comment will identify that comment as someone that is giving his opinion from an authority point of view, right? From someone that actually knows what he's talking about or what she's talking about or whatever. So that's actually a good way to reward community members holding certain type of badges. But again, I'll open it to everyone because what we have now is PP highlighting comments, vouchers for name registration. Okay, that's a good incentive. Free wearable submissions. That's a really good one. But we don't have a lot of them. And maybe it's good not having like a lot of incentives or ways to recognize or to potentiate the usage of these badges, but this is what we have right now. So I invite you all to share your comments or to join the stage. I know if any of the ones that have created these cards want to join and share your ideas, but this is what we have. I personally go for my opinion, right? uh, PP multipliers for certain badges, not like obviously multiplying for 2 or 3 or 5, but just a small percentage. Uh, so that could be an incentive, and that incentive could that multiplier could increase with the different tiers. So that's something that we could totally explore.
So I do want to say I don't think we should be rewarding mana. Voting power is different, that's okay. But I think as soon as you provide a financial incentive for people to come in and look at this and think like, wow, I can make a career out of just doing this and maintaining my position, I think that's dangerous. We run into a lot more issues, and we can see that in the real world where you have people who come into positions of power, like say, they're managing a healthcare system and they've only ever studied political science, right? We don't want that here. We want somebody in positions of power because they are passionate about this, because they, want to make this better. And I think rewarding them with voting power. So if they do just want control over the system and to have more of an impact, that's healthy. But providing them with a financial incentive, I see that as dangerous. That's just my take.
And that's a really interesting take. But because I was going after this, I was going to say, what about creating an incentives program for, I don't know, delegates or a working group facilitators or whatever? So it's important to have your point of view here. But yeah, I personally agree that the best way of doing this is with with voting power multipliers. That's my take.
Just to clarify, that's like if somebody has 100 mana already, then that 100 mana could like become 150 voting power, right?
Exactly. And probably less. Not talking about
No,
50% multiplier, but yeah, maybe 110 or whatever.
Yeah.
And with the different tiers, maybe that could be increased.
No, that sort of makes sense. Because then it becomes more valuable to hold mana if you are active in the community.
I do really like this one for highlighting comments. So that this would definitely recognize those community members that have contributed and will help their voices to be heard as authorities, right? Not maybe authorities, but as respected community members.
Another FYI regarding that, we are about to release a feature that will add some friction to the voting mechanism to users with a lot of BP first, like over 50K of BP. And the next week, we will do the same with users who are recognized delegates. And the way that will work is that when you are about to vote on a proposal, a pop-up will appear saying, hey, your vote is valuable, either because you have a lot of VP or because you are a delegate, a recognized delegate. So why don't you give your reasons for voting? It's not going to be blocking. I mean, you can skip that if you want, but we will ask you for a reason, like a reason why. Why are you choosing this option? And those reasons will appear at the top, like above the comment section as voting reasons. And when you go to the voting list, like when you see the results and see who voted on what, the users who actually gave a reason for their vote will have like an icon, and you will be able to click on that and see the reason why of their voting. So we could do the same with subject matter experts or wherever. Right now, we are doing it only for, let's say, whales, but it's something easily modifiable.
Well, that's great. That actually brings a solution for this. Yeah, we could totally, if that's scalable, we could totally do that with certain badge holders or whatever. So that's great. That's great. Another thing that you didn't tell to me. Great, congrats for that. Um, okay, well, we have here VP again with different tiers. Yeah, that's true, Gino. That's true. That's true. Yeah, we need to take a cup of coffee someday. Free wearable submissions and discounts. That's a good one. I don't think that's going to be a problem too. This is something that we should discuss with the foundation too, because it's an implementation in the marketplace. But yeah, I don't think it's impossible to do that. Like certain badge holders having for certain time, certain amount of time, discounts or benefits in the marketplace, or for submitting wearables. Uh, that's a good one.
We could even do it as a ration too. So like, say you sell, 100 or 1,000 wearables, then you get a free one on the next one. Sort of like if you're providing enough to the community, then it becomes free for you to provide for the community.
Yep. Okay, so I believe we've covered pretty much everything.
Yeah.
We're kind of 5 minutes away from closing this. I know if you maybe we can stay for a couple of more minutes. What I wanted to do is to before closing this mural thing, and before closing the meeting, wanted to share with you again, as I mentioned, the active proposals, the draft proposal, and the ideas that are around here about VP distribution, about these governance layers, about delegates, like to see if we can promote them or if we can present pre-proposal polls to start moving forward with this, right? Because all these definitely will need governance proposals, and achieving to approve a governance proposal takes its time. So maybe starting with some of them will be a good idea. Before that, I know, Ibe, if you want to give some
No,
closure words for this.
I think we're good as far as reputation and badges. Thanks, Ron, for the input. I will be sharing the mural in the channel of the working group, just in case any other community member wants to chip in. We'll send a summary of this. But yeah, I think we're pretty good on that end. A lot to come, but we are in the right direction. So thanks, everyone, and I will give it back to Fe.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ibe. Thanks for putting together this board. You're actually doing an excellent job. Also with the summaries. I don't know if you want to like paste again, both in the working group and here in the chat, the mural and the summary for last VP distribution working group. This is again an ongoing process, so maybe the summary is not complete, but the idea is to keep iterating and to keep completing with the things and the insights that we gather here. Uh, Before closing, again, I want just to review again the active proposals or ideas that are around. I want to start first with the land BP decay that we discussed last time. We're not talking anymore about reputation system that we will probably like build on top of the current system, but trying to fix like the current BP distribution. And some of those measures are, for example, land BP decay. And we discussed this last time. And what we said, the idea was to say, okay, you have, I don't know, 100 parcels. For that, you have 2K BP for each one of them. Okay, now you will have negative and positive incentives to populate those, to create scenes on those. And if you don't create scenes, if you don't deploy content of them, your VP will decay gradually. So let's say, for example, again, I have 100 parcels, and 50 of them are unoccupied. Okay, those parcels VP won't be worth 2K anymore. They will be, I don't know, 1K and a half. I don't know. Should what we presented last time and what we discussed is to incentivize creating content in Genesis City and to actually engage landholders to create content and to participate actively, what we could do is this: create positive and negative incentive structure for land BP decay. And for that, we obviously need to define what occupied and what unoccupied land, right? Because last time we said, okay, deploying something in a scene. Okay, that's easy to track with the builder and other tools. That's not that complicated. But some people brought comments about like the engagement in those parcels, and then we started talking about active users, about interactions with the scene and everything. But again, those ones are easy to gamify, easy to cheat. So we got back to the main idea that was okay. Let's start with the basic. Let's start with deploying something in a parcel, and if you have something deployed in that parcel, you will keep your 2000 BP. If not, that BP could decay with the pass of the time. So first of all, I wanted to bring back that idea that we had last time. I don't know if any of you have comments regarding that. What we're planning to do is to present a pre-proposal poll for that. That might be the best way, obviously, to gather feedback and input from the rest of the community. But it would be nice if any of you joins or comments on this in this specific session. So the pre-proposal poll obviously will be something very basic, an open question with some details. But maybe we can like do it more. We could complete it more. One comment from Nikki: I don't think anyone has enough real users to gauge metrics again right now. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. That's why I'm saying, right? Well, it's not only easy to gamify, but at the same time, no one has like, and Genesis City does not have the engagement, does not have enough engagement to take this as a metric, right? So yeah, I agree 100%. That's why we got back to the deployment thing, right? Like the scenes being deployed in parcels. Yep, 100% scripted failure. Any other comments regarding this? We will just present the pre-proposal poll, like to kickstart the discussions about this. I think it's a good idea, personally, in my opinion. But there are a lot of stuff that I'm probably missing, and yeah, will be great to have your inputs there. The other proposal that has been like around for a long time was the limit max BP from a single wallet. This proposal has been rejected 2 times, and it was about limiting the BP from people to the 50% of the threshold of a proposal. So let's say you have 2 million BP and you want to vote on a pre-proposal poll. Yeah, and the threshold for passing a pre-proposal poll is 500K. Okay, you only will be able to use your BP, but limited to the 50% of the threshold of that type of proposal, meaning that if we're going to vote with 2 million BP on a proposal with a 500K threshold, you will be able to vote only with 250K in that proposal. And this is, again, something that we already shared a couple of times. It was rejected 2 times. A lot of people that said that was going to vote and participate didn't participate. But since we're, again, talking about BP distribution, and governance, and revamping the system, this came again last time, so I wanted to bring that again. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I'm just trying to understand it because I did see that one up there, but my trouble with that is what stops somebody from splitting their funds across multiple dummy accounts?
Exactly, and that was the
Yeah.
next thing I was going to say. And with that, okay, this this is like a beautiful thing to say and a beautiful thing to vote. And it is also a statement from the DAO, right? We already said that in the proposal. It's not only something desirable, but as a statement, right? Because we don't want anyone that comes and have more than the 50% to say on a voting, right? Not, I mean, it's not democratic. It's we're have now a plutocratic system, and we're trying to get more into a democratic one. So the problem here is that there should be, thanks eBay for posting that. There should be, or we should try to find a way, if again, if you want to move forward with this, and this being more than a statement, to mitigate that whales or other actors to split their assets to conduct civil attacks. And again, civil attacks, yes, again, we're talking about civil attacks, but again, if anyone can help with that, if any of you have ideas of this not only being a statement, but something actually helpful for limiting BP, please be my guest. I mean, we don't want to present or to promote this before having not the solution, but maybe a way to mitigate this.
I really don't want to be a doomer, but it almost sounds like you guys are asking like the emperors to get off their throne, like because we need whales on our side, right? In order to enact any of these, we need more people agreeing that this should be more democratic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I love the idea. I just see that as a massive challenge.
yeah, it is. It is. I mean, we're just discussing ideas and proposals here.
Yeah.
These two proposals were actually rejected by whales. But again, if we want like a full revamp or a partial revamp on this, we should like knock doors of whales that could help us to pass this if we want to, obviously. Like to agree, this should be like the and like a new foundation for the governance, right? As you mentioned, we need like big players to agree that you're basically going to lose in power, and that's going to be difficult. But if we agree that this is a solution or a partial solution, well, we should go for it. We can try to push it. We can try to reach out to the different whales or to different stakeholders to pass this. Yeah, it's a big challenge, as Sinfully saying. Not impossible, not impossible. Last round said that he basically did the math and it's not impossible, but yeah, it's a huge effort.
Sorry,
yeah,
I've been out of the community for a while. You mentioned that the thing with the land, where the land would become less valuable unless you had a scene deployed on it that was attracting users.
Mhm.
How long has that been floating around for?
Not a lot of times. It was something that has been mentioned a couple of times, but right now, well, last time we like raised this again, and we started to discuss it like in concrete, because so far it was just something that people said or mentioned, and right now it has become a thing. But
Okay.
it hasn't been something that has been for a long time. It was something
Yeah.
that has been mentioned, but right now we're like taking it seriously.
Have there been any polls, or have we reached out to any of the massive landowners to see what their opinion on that is? Like even just through an anonymous like survey off of like Banana Survey or whatever could be useful to get feedback on that, because we might run into the same issue there that we're running into with the max VP accountant. If there are people with large amounts of land and that's providing them a lot of voting power, and then that's just an investment they want to sit on and they don't really want to do anything with it, they don't want any more expenses to be pushed towards that, I think we might run into issues there as well.
100%. I didn't reach out to a lot of people. I did have conversations with some people that have land, and obviously they are not like happy with this. Some of them told me that they could abstain of the voting, but they are not voting yes, definitely. But like a pre-proposal poll could be a good starting for this. Uh, yeah, no problem, Gino. Thanks a lot for your sharings. A pre-proposal poll could be a good start. I mean, at least will help us to identify those um, whales or landlords or landowners that do not agree with this, and maybe that's the starting point for inviting them to a table and start discussing uh, different possibilities, right? I mean, we already have the pre-proposal polls as a tool to gauge community sentiment, so maybe we don't need to create a separate survey or poll. Maybe we can use what we have in the governance system right now.
Yeah. One of the issues that I've been running into is there's a lot of people who virtue signal, and I'm not calling anybody out. It's like, you know, everybody does their thing, but you'll have people who say one thing and then act another way, and they'll do that right up until the last moment, which can make things difficult in a public setting. So I think maybe like just doing an anonymous survey and asking like, you know, some simple questions like how much voting power do you have between like 1 million and 10 million or whatever, put it on leashes and just let them give their honest opinion without having to link it back to anybody. It's sort of like, you know, a heads down, hands up sort of scenario where you get a pure read on everybody without everybody else looking at like, you know, who's voting for what choice. That might be an okay first start, bringing everybody to the table through a public survey. But usually public surveys are not as accurate as anonymous surveys. If you're in the room with friends, you're going to have a different opinion than if you're in the room alone, especially on order of ask, right?
You're totally right. Yep, we definitely should do that. Yep, you changed my mind. Let's.
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to budge in or anything.
No. You're totally right. You're totally right. A pre-proposal vote could become a war. War in the platform and in the forum. So yeah, maybe a survey. Well, Lorelike has done a lot of surveys in the other working groups. Maybe we could conduct a poll with open questions and closed questions to extract some conclusions from there, as we did a lot of times, right? Actually, the working groups are one of the main tools of the working groups are surveys. Just wanted to skip that step, but yeah, your reasoning is like very accurate. We will create well, as a follow up, we will create a survey for this with eBay, and we will present it in the next few days, probably next week.
Yeah, sorry, I know it's more work.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. It's not a lot of work. It's. I mean, it's something that we need to do to avoid this open war. So yeah. Thanks a lot for bringing that. Yeah, you changed my mind, but in the good sense. In the good sense. Okay, and to close this meeting, we already lost some people, and that's obviously natural because we've been here for more than an hour. I wanted to bring, well, first of all, the quadratic delegation thing, but Gino is not here, so it's going to be complicated to discuss it because it was his proposal. But I also wanted to bring the delegation proposal, the delegation revamp proposal that Lorelike has submitted and that has passed a couple of days ago. And it goes about, obviously, again, like professionalizing delegates, creating incentives, and everything. So, the figure that like the role of the delegate, again, could be as Nikki said a couple of minutes ago. Delegates have enough incentive. That's okay. That the participation has to be voting and maybe assessing the proposals, and that's okay. Or maybe we could like figure out another way of working with delegates, of finding a way of promoting the participation of them. My question is, why do delegates need more incentive that they already have? Yeah, I mean, I'm going to challenge that. Actually, I do believe that you have a really valid point, but a lot of DAOs, Arbitrum, Optimism, and a lot more, Maker, have incentives for delegates, and they incentivize through money. Basically, they pay for their participation or for their assessments or for their participation in different governance instances, or for being part of specific councils or subcommittees or whatever. I that's what I want to like to point here, right? Uh, no. I know, Nick. I know. It's what I'm saying is that there is like there are cases of delegates being incentivized, and again, that doesn't mean it's good, but it definitely brings more engagement, and I do believe that brings more professionalism. But that's my opinion. That's my opinion. I do know that, as crypto trader said, we shouldn't be paying people for this because we're basically going to promote the creation of a political class, and that might be good or not. But as crypto trader said, that might not be good for this DAO. Just bring the
No.
idea. Yeah,
And
sorry.
I do just want to reinforce that I do not think we should have a political class in Decentraland. I do not think people should get paid just to enforce bureaucracy. I like from my point of view, I would much rather trust somebody who has stake in the game, who is building something in Decentraland and knows that if you make Decentraland more popular, then their share in Decentraland becomes more valuable. I'd rather have that person there than somebody who is like just getting paid meat and potatoes to sit there and like be like, well, what's next on the list, right? How many complaints can I write off in a day?
Yeah, and that's a good point because this central is obviously very different from the other DAOs. The DAOs that I mentioned are for layer DOS, layer two technologies, layer DOS, dije. Sorry, the Spanglish. Layer two technologies, and they have like a different way of doing things and allocating resources and everything. But yeah, what you just mentioned is really valid too, right? Because what we want to recognize here are other kind of contributions. So yeah, totally valid. I'm going to read out loud what Nikki just mentioned. I think it's important that we remember why this PP distribution issue the corruption that exists. Creating monetization incentive to delegates will just breed that corruption. Totally valid point. Just again, just bringing this perspective because as part of a revamp of the delegate system, this could be an option. But that's totally valid point. Lord, I know if you want to.
Yeah. I want to jump in. So at now, like our DAO does not have like a separate delegate and voter section. It's like pretty hidden in my personal opinion. So my motivation was that if you'll have like a separate delegates and voter section with like each delegate which will choose like some kind of area of governance in which he's interested, maybe he can point out short-term and long-term goals. And like one of the points of the proposal is to make like a revelation period when um, delegates or like delegates for like PP for a certain period of time, and then like have the opportunity to evaluate what delegate did, what initiatives, what on like his KPIs were set. And I think like delegates and voters like should have incentives like for to exclude bribing and all this corrupting stuff. And I like heard many respectful delegates, such as, if I'm not mistaken, Feder and Gino, which talk also about some kind of incentives for governance participation. Maybe we need just to define the clear criteria, like which actions are rewarded. Like for example, we have a badge from which we can build, and like one of which we have is like legislator badge, which can be like given only for enacted proposals, like to increase accountability. So also I want like my idea is to make like a system for delegates to be like a strategic framework when there is like certain period when delegates like talk about goals of DAO and like optimists have like delegates can post like missions on which they can work on. So that was the point. I'm not saying like all the points are valid, but I think it's worth discuss and brainstorm. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth discussing, but I've never seen a delegation system where adding a monetary value to it, adding that has reduced corruption. I've only ever seen it being noticed as a pay raise. Um, so I don't see this as a way to get rid of corruption. I do see it as a way of like adding a pay raise to it will increase activity, but not the good type of activity, not quality activity or engagement that we want. What it does is it basically brings all the people out of the woodwork who are like, oh wow, there's money there. I like money. I want that money. Right? That's what it does to the ecosystem. I see this as being like, VP incentives, fantastic. The people who want VP incentives are the people who are passionate about Decentraland, the people who actually want to see change and have an idea or a vision for how this platform should look. That's fantastic. Give them those incentives. Just don't tie it to real world money. If they're going to be corrupt and they are going to be biased by other people throwing money at them, then adding an incentive of more money to that position will only bring in worse people.
For example, if you're talking like a good example is working group facilitators. I don't know, it's like a pretty new concept, but frankly speaking, it requires pretty much time. And if there won't be incentive, I'm not sure if this concept will work. It's just like an example of what delegates can do. Like they can
Yes,
be
but I
working
view
group
that.
facilitators.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. I do believe that working groups are valuable, 100%, and they should be rewarded. Absolutely, as long as they're being able to prove that they are doing work and that work is valuable, 100%. I view that as something different than delegates, though.
Yeah,
Delegates is
so I'm just looking at this like like whole system, because like delegates and voters are the ones who are becoming working group facilitators, because like in my opinion, yeah, so they're active members.
I think that, I mean, those are really fair points. I think what our systems do just to try to compensate this potential corrupting is having delegates rotating. I mean, it's never the same batch of delegates, so I guess you wouldn't be able to vote in a certain way. I mean, but yeah, I do believe as well that the incentive of being corrupt is there as well. It always is, right? Um,
I think shifting apples out of the basket and putting new ones in, like you're always going to have a couple rotten ones. I almost disagree with the rotating incentive. I would turn it into a pure competition of like, you got 15 delegate slots, maybe more. It's just a random number. And you've got 5 for the best world creators, 5 for the best, wearable creators, 5 for the people who are most active on voting or stuff like that, right? And you make it a competition because the people who are after these positions of power, they're not going to be there in the long run, like a year down the line. They're going to get shifted out when they get bored or when the competition of somebody more passionate, more driven drives them out, right?
yeah.
So like rotation for the lower provision, the lower providing people, 100%.
Yeah. Also, like in these revamps, like the delegates, I mean, it's a requirement for them to express their opinion. I mean, it's not like they just can vote and, play fools on their voting. Like, if you're a delegate in any of the systems, you have to have, some background on the voting, some other responsibilities, which is not the same, just as voting, and that's it. But yeah, those are great.
Yeah, and requirements for transparency and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Maybe even audits. Like maybe we even go on that route as well. It'll be easy enough in a couple of years. Like they're already working on AI auditing systems to
Right.
give you wallet veracity checks and stuff.
Okay. Well, 1 hour and a half almost. So, yeah, well, thanks to the people that stayed till the end of this meeting. We were like few, but it was a really productive one. So we're going to work with the with the things that you shared about the budgets and the possible incentives, and yeah, how they could help to the governance system. And we're also going to review all these proposals that we just mentioned and the different comments on them. And as a follow up, eBay and me will conduct a survey for the land BPDK thing to have at least like picture of what the community thinks about it before actually jumping into an open voting. And that will be pretty much all for today. I don't want to steal more time from you. I also have to do a lot of stuff here in my place, so here in my home. So okay, again, thanks everyone. We'll keep you posted about the next session for this. We'll post the summary as well, and we'll conduct this survey that Crypto Trader has just suggested.
Fede, one question. Can we make some kind of analysis on like other DAOs and their experience with incentives? So that we can be like data driven to make data driven approach.
100%. Yes. Yes. Let's discuss
So
about
because,
this later.
yeah.
Maybe we can present something next time about different cases.
Okay.
But yeah, that will help a lot. That will help a lot. Not only about talking about monetary incentives, but incentives as a whole for delegates. Okay, that will be all for today. Let's continue discussions in BP distribution. This is actually moving forward. We're aiming to present proposals in the short term. So please participate. Please invite other community members and stakeholders that might be interested in this. And yep, again, we'll keep you posted about next steps. Bye bye.
Everyone, thanks.